Some major drama happening in the courtroom right now in Trump's Manhattan prosecution. Here's what just happened. Prosecutors just finished up with Michael Cohen, who was their final witness, and they officially rested their case against Donald Trump, which meant it was the defense's turn, Trump's team's turn, to call witnesses, and they opted to call one, Robert Costello, who was a former legal advisor to Michael Cohen. They called him to testify about Cohen's state of mind as federal investigators closed in on him in 2018 before he ultimately went to prison. But Costello seems very much to be performing for an audience of one, because this is what unfolded in the courtroom. Costello was apparently unhappy with the fact that what he was saying in court about Michael Cohen was drawing objections from the prosecutors, and so he exclaimed out loud, "Geez," to which Judge Merchan replied, "I'm sorry." He then excused the jury and said to Costello, "I want to discuss proper decorum in my courtroom. If you don't like my ruling, don't say geez. You don't say strike it because I'm the only one who can strike it," and he reprimanded him for giving him side-eye and rolling his eyes, to which Costello replied, correctly for once, "I understand." Merchan then ordered the courtroom completely cleared, wherein even the press had to leave. When the press returned, according to Katie Fang, Costello was seated at the witness stand looking decidedly chastened. Now, as for the impacts that this will have, first off, if the point here is for Trump's defense team to have Costello impugn the character of Michael Cohen, he's not exactly succeeding. Instead, the only thing that the jury is going to remember about this moment is that Costello was so petulant that his behavior actually warranted having the courtroom cleared, not exactly driving home the point that they were hoping to make. Furthermore, it underscores a point that I made earlier. Costello, like so many other people on Trump's legal team, is performing for an audience of one. This entire trial has been a monument to Donald Trump's ego. We heard reporting from the New York Times that Trump actually wanted his attorneys to go harder against Stormy Daniels when she was testifying. Now, think about this for a second from a common sense perspective. You've got a sexual assault victim on the stand. Perhaps not the best idea to rip into her if your goal is not to lose the jury. And yet the fact that Trump's instruction for his lawyers was to be hostile to her goes to show that this isn't about the jury. It's not even really about the case. It is about Trump winning in the court of public opinion. His sole priority is to perpetuate this narrative that the whole trial is a sham in an effort to undermine the legitimacy of any impending ruling. In other words, Trump probably sees the writing on the wall. He knows that he's likely to lose, and so rather than wait, he's trying to delegitimize the case now in advance of that ruling, in advance of that conviction. It goes to show just how confident Donald Trump is in his own defense. Now, I asked my Legal Breakdown co-host Glenn Kirshner about the implications of this moment wherein Trump's team seems poised to lose the jury and whether there's any hope of actually getting them back, and here's what he had to say.
Glenn, once you lose the jury, how hard is it to get them back?
There's no getting a jury back once you lose them. You know, once the defense attorneys start attacking Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels, when I think people will be able to assess that they're telling the truth, not only because I think they're going to come across as credible witnesses sort of in and of themselves, but we've already heard some of the corroboration. We've heard about how Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal's phone numbers were virtually in Donald Trump's Rolodex at work, and yet he had no relationship with those women. So they're going to be corroborated, and when they are under attack because they'll see that the defense attorneys are doing Donald Trump's bidding and trying to deny the obvious at the expense of these women and their credibility, it's not going to sit well. If he's not already lost the jury, he will lose the jury. And once you lose the jury, once the jury sees the defendant for who he is, there really is no turning back.
And a reminder that Glenn and I are doing daily comprehensive coverage of this trial in New York, so if you want to follow along, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. Along those same lines, Glenn and I also discussed why Trump's attorneys would allow Trump to dictate how they try this case, even when his direction will actually hurt his own defense.
Glenn, is there a world in which Todd Blanche can defy Trump, or is he going to have to basically just try this case poorly on purpose because he's at the mercy of his client?
Yeah, I think it exposes the weakness of the lawyers that Donald Trump chooses and the lawyers who are willing to represent him. What Todd Blanche should do is say, yeah, Mr. Former President, Mr. Defendant, I make the tactical decisions. I am going to defend you so that you have a fighting chance at perhaps winning an acquittal or a hung jury. But Todd Blanche is not up to that task. It looks like he is kowtowing to, you know, a really difficult client, to manage, and he is not trying a smart, savvy, tactical case. That is, I think, an abdication of the responsibility a defense attorney has to zealously represent his client. It's not to appease the client. If the client wants you to take a position that you know will undermine and undercut your client's chances of winning, you stand up to your client, you represent him zealously, you do the right thing, and you let the chips fall.
It really is the perfect storm. You've got an unhinged, egomaniacal criminal defendant, you've got weak defense attorneys who cannot control their client, and you've got a losing case that they are all trying to argue. Remember, Michael Cohen literally went to prison for this exact scheme facilitated by Donald Trump. And I know that Trump is claiming that he played no role in it. You mean to tell me that Michael Cohen just wanted to mortgage his home to pay off Stormy Daniels for no reason? Like any human being wants to leverage their home for a hush money payout apropos of nothing? Michael Cohen just needed to put his family's livelihood at risk for the love of doling out hush money payouts? Give me a break. Michael Cohen may be an imperfect witness, and he certainly has proven as much, but the checks speak for themselves, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out Trump's role in the scheme that sent Michael Cohen to prison. And yet, rather than undermine Michael Cohen, all the defense managed to do today was to call yet another hostile witness whose lasting impression on the jury will be that he got the courtroom cleared because he couldn't control himself. Seems like the Trump team is trading in those kinds of personalities, aren't they? This has become a hallmark of the Trump team. Petulant, unhinged, impulsive, defensive men who don't even have enough self-awareness to recognize how they're being perceived, and especially not by the jury. This stuff might work on the rubes who show up to Trump's rallies and who open their checkbooks for the guy every time he comes begging for money, but it's highly unlikely to work on a jury that's actually well informed with the facts of the case. But again, it's only Trump's base that he cares about. Those are the people who fund his entire doomed effort. Those are the people he's trying to turn out in November. Those are the people that he hopes will be his tribunes to spread his gospel that he's innocent and that he's done nothing wrong, and that this whole thing is yet another effort by the evil communist Marxist Democrats to take down their favorite president, Donald J. Trump. As if it's the Democrats' fault that Trump falsified his business records to hide a hush money payout. As if it's the Democrats' fault that Trump stole classified documents from the White House. As if it's the Democrats' fault that he incited an insurrection. As if it's the Democrats' fault that Trump told Brad Raffensperger to find 11,780 non-existent votes. Donald Trump is a grown-ass man. He makes his own decisions. If he chose to break the law, which he's done numerous times at this point, then that's no one's fault but his own. And just like he's responsible for his own actions, he'll also have to take responsibility for them, whether he wants to do so or not. I've got a really exciting announcement. I've written a book. It's called Shameless. This book explores how Republicans have exploited their historical branding while attacking our democracy, how the media has proven itself a willful participant, and how Democrats can learn from this to rebalance the political scales and save our democracy. It has been a lifelong dream of mine to write my own book, and so I'd like to ask you to pre-order it by clicking the link right here on the screen. And if you buy within this pre-order period, your book is going to come with a signed nameplate. As you know, I've never had a single sponsor on my channel. I don't ask for money or anything like that, but if you're looking for a way to support me, this is hands down the best way to do it. So again, follow the link right here on the screen, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for pre-ordering Shameless. And as always, make sure to subscribe to see more of my content.